Hi everybody and welcome back to my driveway. Today we're going to redo the knife I started last week. It was, I found a lot of things wrong with it, so it's just easier to start over and take it from the top. I'm going to cut off this piece of suspension spring here, but in the meantime, go ahead and pause the video, get yourself a cup of coffee, tea, beer, whatever makes you comfortable, and I'll see you when you get back. Okay, so as you can tell, I have a little bit of trouble with straightening suspension spring. Someone recently called me out for not using proper tongs, and I think they're right. I think I'm gonna have to just step up my tong game here and make some. I keep claiming that tool making is my favorite part of blacksmithing, but tongs really scare me. Like, the tools I've made so far are mostly just straight pieces that don't have any fancy shaping to them or anything like that. You just just form the end however you need it, and there you go. Tongs are more difficult. Speaking of, here's yet another reason I should be doing that. Last time I did some finishing work, the beeswax I was using ran down into the head of the vice grips, got in there nice and deep, and as you can see on the screen, it's smoking pretty badly, so know that there's consequences for not using the proper tools, I guess. Anyway, what I'm going to do differently is, instead of shaping this into a square cross section, I'm going to make a flat bar out of this piece of suspension spring. It's round right now, so there's a lot of work to be done here, but it'll get there. You'll see. I'll show you all. So right here you notice a difference in strength used in the hammer strikes, and that's on purpose, right? Like, toward the end there, all I was trying to do was straighten the piece. You don't need to hit it hard to straighten it, you just need to hit it in the right place. So yeah, but here I'm trying to make a round piece of metal flat, and that does take some work. Side note, a couple places I have ended up over the course of editing this video watching my footage in reverse, and hammering backwards really looks weird. It looks like I'm just gently touching the piece and then lifting the hammer off. It's kind of funny. So in a minute I'm going to flip this hammer around and use the cross peen to draw it out side to side. When you hit hot metal with a hammer, the metal under the hammer face spreads in every direction. Here we go. So when you use a long, narrow hammer face, like I'm doing now, it makes it so that more metal spreads on the long edge of that hammer face than on the short edges. And since I'm trying to widen this piece and also thin it out, that works perfectly for what I want to do here. So there, now you know why I have a hammer shaped like that. I must have got a lot of beeswax down in there because it is still smoking pretty badly. Yep, it's decided. Next blacksmithing video is going to be me making tongs. It might end up badly. We'll see. My next video, though, isn't going to be smithing at all. It's going to be a leather mask that I'm making as a response to the CDC's recommendations that everybody start wearing masks. I'll let you see that when I make it. It'll be really fun. Another thing you don't get to see is me waiting around for the metal to get hot. I've cut all that out on purpose. It's boring to watch. But this roughly 20-minute video actually took about almost an hour to film. So a third of the time is me just standing around waiting for the metal to heat up. Nature of blacksmithing, I guess. When I'm not videoing, I like to have multiple things in the furnace, or forge, excuse me, at a time, so that when I put one thing in, I can pull the next thing out and get cracking on that. That makes for a very confusing video, though. When you experience it in real life, it's pretty easy to keep track of what's on the anvil and what's not, but just watching through a tiny screen, it would be real easy to lose track of what I'm hammering on right now, especially since I don't really have a good perspective here for you guys yet. I got a lot of things I gotta buy, but one of them is a camera tripod that stands up and has a better view of the anvil. First comes a new anvil, though. Got my eye on one of those eBay anvils that people have been talking about for so long. Actually, I think I'll put a link down in the description. If I don't, say something about it, and I'll make sure to get it in the comments. Speaking of upcoming projects, though, I've been tossing around the idea of making a crossbow. This would involve some woodworking, some leatherworking for a sling, some metalworking for the prod. It looks like a lot of fun. But let me know if you're interested in that. I'd love you guys' input too. Now I'll flip back around to the flat face on this hammer. I'm just planishing it out to get all the weird bumps and ridges out of the metal that got put in by the cross-peen face. Also need to do a lot of straightening. Some things are all wonky, so I'll get it all fixed. And there we go. Almost have a pretty respectable piece of bar stock there. Now, yeah, I could just buy bar stock, but I already had this spring. It came to me free. Might as well use it. And knife steel is kind of expensive compared to mild. So if I can use salvage steel for high carbon applications and mild steel for everything else, that'd probably be for the best. Here I'm trying to isolate the tang. This is part of why I want to get a better anvil. And I suppose I could fix this on the one I have currently with an angle grinder, just take off one of the corners on the edges. But part of that newer anvil thing is also getting a better base built, and that'll help me immensely because you notice that whole thing rocked when I hit it, and I'd much rather not have that happen. It'll still happen some, but whatever. Drawing out the tang. This knife is actually going to have a hidden tang, like I said last time. So it'll you won't see the tang from the outside of the handle. It'll run right through the middle, and then there should be a cap or something to secure the end, so that the tang runs all the way through the handle, and it can just be. Another benefit of doing it this way is the failure knife. I still had a lot of forging to do. I hadn't completely drawn the tang out yet. It looked like a horrible mess. I maybe could have fixed some of those things. Some of them were definitely not going anywhere. Like I had a cold shut. That's where two pieces of metal fold together but they don't weld. Right where the tang left the blade. And that would have been a bad thing. That would have caused a breakage eventually. And I don't want that. I'd rather have my work be something I can be proud of all the way until I die, because, a knife should outlive me. My family has a cabin up in the woods, and we have several knives up there that have been in the family since, I want to say, at least the 50s. That's long before I was born. My grandparents were kids when the family acquired those, and honestly, they were secondhand. They were old at the time. Some of them were obviously handmade, probably in the 30s. The story my grandmother tells, it was her family that had the cabin originally, is that at some point they bought the contents of a farmhouse at an auction, and a lot of that stuff came from that farmhouse. Almost all the furniture, most of the utensils, some of the cast iron, a wood stove that keeps us warm in the winter, bunches of stuff. Still working on drawing out that tang. It's a little too wide for what I want to do with it right now, so I want to make sure that I can leave enough meat on the handle that it'll actually be strong too, because once again, I want to be proud of my work when I'm done with it. I don't want this breaking in a year. And technically, as I've been hammering on the thin edge of this thing the whole time that I've been drawing down the tang, I'm actually upsetting the metal. That's making it thicker in the areas that I've been hitting. So I need to remember that and try to thin it down. That's what I'm doing here. Well, actually now I'm straightening, but it's what I was doing before. And now it's time to flip this around and work on the point a little bit. And yeah, that tang is long. I'm going to cut some of it off. I don't know how much yet, but depends on the handle length. So, right about here, I kind of forgot that a Puukko has a straight spine all the way to the point. No drop to the point whatsoever. All that stuff. And I decided that I wanted a drop point on this knife. So it's not technically a Puukko anymore, but it's still going to be very similar in style, and it's going to be very, very similar in function. Had a lot of trouble here keeping the tang straight, and honestly, maybe I should have just forged the point and fixed the tang when I was done. And once again, by hitting it on the edge, I'm still upsetting. And I don't want a thicker point than the rest of the blade is, and I don't want to work real hard at grinding, so I had to make sure to drive that metal out sometimes. I also ended up forging it really thin, so I'm not going to be trying to forge in bevels this time. I'm going to have to grind those, just because I don't have enough material here to do a lot of grinding anyway. And I'm a little worried about warping in the heat treat. I know it's a tiny little knife, so it's probably not a big deal. But it is really thin, and it's probably going to be uneven. So I'm going to try to even it off on the grinder before I heat treat, and we'll see how that works. I also really only got kind of close as far as the blade shape I wanted, so I'm going to do some final shaping on the grinding whenever I finally get there. Which I guess technically will be my next blacksmithing video. But the next time I do any forging, you're going to see me with tongs. Promise. Anyway, I had a lot of fun making this piece. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you want to see for future projects anyway. I found that I like the actual forging of knives, but the next part's going to be the part that I don't. It's grinding, and grinding is slow and painful and rather tedious. Anyway, I will see you on the next video. Bye.